real cars have 4 speeds. That'll stir up some fan mail. We do a lot more of this than we do working on cars like Mr. Jones, so this might seem abnormal to most of the viewers, most of the people that are following us, but you know, once they get built, they get used. So here we are, maintaining what we did. Well, let me show you guys kind of one of the things that I'm looking at here. Speedometer drive. That's a speedometer cable right there. That's dripping. There's even some, that's a new tail shaft seal. There's even some new snot coming out of that. And dripping off the cross member, dripping off. Let me see if I can show you guys this. You can see in there. Pan gasket. So I'm gonna start with pulling the pan down. I'm gonna start with pulling the pan down and cleaning things up, seeing what's what, tightening up that speedometer. It shifts so great. The transmission works very, very well. I hate to take it out. If I don't have to. I do have another Turbo 350 that I can put in there. It's not really wet in the front part. You guys can see in there. Sometimes it's best to just start at the basics. And several of these pan bolts were loose. The speedometer drive cable right here, the fitting, that was also a little loose. And some fluid was dripping out of there. I snugged that up. The shifter fork here, the shifter shaft, I know I replaced that O-ring. That was really wet. I dried that up. Obviously, the shifter shaft could have some wear. I did take the flywheel cover off just to see if the front pump seal, torque converter seal was leaking. The pump gasket's not leaking. The torque converter seal's not leaking. Crawl back over here and show. Let's see if I can show you guys this. I know, I need a lift. So, Trinity cooler line fittings, dry. The dipstick tube O-ring, that was dry. What wasn't very dry is the kickdown cable up top. See that bolt there? That was a little wet. You can see the rubber gasket there. So that's an aftermarket kickdown cable and O-ring, because during the disassembly, I kind of got broken. All right, so like I was saying, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this nice clean piece of cardboard. You can see that drain pan there. That dripped a lot, man. So I'm gonna take this piece of cardboard, now that I tightened everything up, clean things off, gonna top the fluid off, and I'm gonna put this piece of cardboard underneath the car and see if I can't start figuring out exactly where it's dripping from. And then we'll go from there. What I can tell you is that it did drip when we first got the car running, and I did change that pan gasket. I had a cork one in there. I didn't really keep it totally dry. So I put a new gasket in there and it was fine for the summer. And then I noticed when it was in storage that it was in storage in the car trailer, that it was dripping. So I'm gonna just do that. Drop it down on a clean piece of cardboard, top the fluid off, let it sit for a couple days, and see what it looks like under there. And we will just, keep on tweaking this. Man, see, look at this. All this little stuff here. All this little flash rust. And I kept dehumidifier bags in the trailer. I kept one of those, Damperate or something? The little bucket in the car, and a couple of them hanging from the ceiling of the trailer. It's not a show car, guys. It's just not a show car. I mean, underneath, you could tell this car was totally not taken off the frame, you know. Frame was not turned upside down like John's El Camino frame. You know, it's just meant to be a driver, but we just had a little bit too much fun doing the visible detailing stuff. So, all right, that's the update here for tonight. Tranny leak persists, so I'm not done there. I'm just gonna get underneath there, boy. I think there's what do we have here? We have, oh yeah, that's wet right there, and that's dripping. That's what's making my mess. It is clearly dripping out of where the speedometer cable goes into the drive housing. There's not supposed to be fluid coming out of there. Okay, I thought it was maybe that O-ring at the bottom. You know, that like 2-inch O-ring. But no. And no, the transmission fluid does not come up the shaft to lubricate the cable. It's not what that does. I think what I'm going to find is that white speedometer drive gear is going to have a groove in it. So when you're working on a BOP Turbo 350, BOP, you know, Buick Olds Pontiac, I don't really like doing much in the way of tutorial stuff here, but some people might find this interesting. A Chevy Turbo 350 is going to have a speedometer drive component, oftentimes referred to as a bullet. And really all that is a piece that the speedometer cable housing threads onto this, and then it's coned, like that of a bullet, and goes into the side of the transmission with an O-ring. BOP, Buick Olds Pontiac, has this bad boy. And then there's a keeper bracket that you guys saw that goes on this way and has a 1/2-inch bolt. So what I'm surmising I'm going to find, I take that 1/2-inch bolt out, pull the keeper out, and then this housing comes out of the transmission. Drips a little bit of fluid. Here's what we're going to look at together. Going to take the speedometer drive off, and I'll bet you there's a groove here. Let's see if we can, because it runs on this seal that's in there. Can you see that seal in there? And that seal, just like any other grease seal, right, is going to come in contact. Oh yeah, look at that. Clearly. I'm going to try to give you guys a better view of this groove that is in this speedometer drive gear. And I want to show you right there is the groove. So when this piece goes into the housing like that, it runs on a seal in there. And that seal, over time, will wear a groove in the nylon. Right there. I didn't notice it. Obviously, I wasn't really looking. Put a new seal in there, put a new O-ring on there, and it really didn't leak. It was pretty dry in the beginning. And now, it's very obvious there's a significant groove in there. So, good. Problem diagnosed. See if I have one in stock. I probably don't, because, you know, real cars have 4 speeds. That'll stir up some fan mail. Let me go see what I have in the shed in that other transmission. Spare trannies in the shed. No. Spare transmissions in the parts trailer. Yeah, no, it's not there either. Let me show you guys where the spare transmission Turbo 350 is. Under there. There's a Turbo 350. Hiding in plain sight. Trying not to freak out here, because I took all kinds of stuff out of the shed to find the Turbo 400 that's out there. Holy. Okay. I'm calming down. There it is. And I don't even think it's got a freaking speedometer drive on it. It's Miller time. After the unsuccessful wild goose chase, it is dawning on me that there is a chance that I never did replace that speedometer drive seal. I know for a fact I did this one. But this is just so hard that it can't be. I'll have to go through the... I wasn't YouTubing then. I was just taking good old-fashioned pictures. And I have tons of pictures. So, let me retract the statement that I replaced this, because I'm not for certain that I did. What I can tell you is this. I'm going to take my stand on my phone here again. It's the little things, man. You do all of this work to these dang cars. Okay, see the shaft? And I put the O-ring on there. That is a sloppy fit. And this O-ring, it's not really an O-ring. It actually is a seal. That's where it rubs. You know, if there was any rubber left to this, I mean, it's a little rubbery, but so good. Don't have one. No big deal. Speedometer is accurate in this car, so I'm just going to order what we have. And it says right on here, what do you guys see there? I see 35T. 35 teeth. So I'll order one of these. I'll order one of those. A snap ring. That's what holds the seal in. And we may as well just get a new O-ring. I think it all comes in a kit, actually. You get the O-ring, you get the seal, a snap ring, and the gear of your selection. So there we have it, okay? The detent cable, the bolt was also a little bit loose on that. I cleaned that off with some brake clean. I tightened up that bolt, 7/16 bolt. Snugged that up a little bit, dried it off. Pan gasket's dry. Like I said the other day, the pump seal and torque converter seal are dry. So it might, cooler lines are dry. So it might just be a couple different little things that are dripping. You know what's happening is this speedometer drive is right above the cross member. Drips on the cross member, fills the cross member, and then drips left to right. So it makes it look like, holy crow, this thing is pouring fluid out. All right, that's that. Enough talking about automatic transmissions. I'll get these parts, we'll put it back together. And that's... All right, for those who are still with me, I'm going to show you what I received when I ordered the speedometer drive gear kit. I received a matching 35 tooth gear. I received a housing O-ring and the actual shaft seal. This is what comes out of the transmission on a BOP transmission, Turbo 350. And you'll see that the housing actually has some numbers here. It doesn't list 35, but that's the tooth count that this housing can accept. It can accept a 35 for 256 gears. You need a 35 tooth speedometer drive. It can take 36, 7, 8, and 9. If you need a different tooth count than that, this housing is actually a different part number. Just a little factoid there. But let me show you guys when you take this out what I'm really trying to show you is, see if I can get the camera a little closer. We talked about the groove here. That groove is worn in by the shaft, and you can see how the new one is worn in by the seal, rather. You see how the new one just doesn't have any wear there. So this is going to provide a much tighter fit, and that's going to stop the drip. So if you have a drip from the speedometer drive housing on a Turbo 350, the cable, this is not a fluid tight seal. So you can't really tighten up the cable housing onto that thinking you're going to fix the leak. In here is a seal that looks like this, is in there. The housing has this O-ring. And then the actual fit from this shaft through this seal is what keeps the fluid out. So I'm going to put this all together with the new parts and snap it in, and high level of confidence here that we have this fixed. I need to add one thing for anybody who hasn't done this before. That metal snap ring is in here. Okay, that metal snap ring goes on after the seal. So the new seal, come on, stay up here, baby. The new seal goes down into that. The snap ring holds that seal in place. So don't try yanking that seal out of there and shredding it and thinking it's just a press-in fit. Just pull. There's no real groove in there. You just get a little dental pick like this little guy here. And just kind of get underneath that seal and walk it around, and you can reuse this. It does not come with a new snap ring. The kit that I ordered anyway doesn't. But I'd be remiss if I did not mention this snap ring. Pretty integral part. I want to share something here. While I was very confident that I had the kickdown cable O-ring seal leak fixed, along with the shifter shaft seal leak fixed, along with the speedometer drive seal leak fixed. This has been dry. Now I have the car jacked up kind of at an angle here to work on the speedometer drive. And there's a puddle on the, where is it now? There's a puddle. I'm like, what the heck? Let me see if you guys can see the kickdown cable. So obviously I've seen it wet at the bottom where the bolt goes. You can see how that's dry on 300 degrees circumference of the kickdown cable housing. And then it's wet right at the top where the cable sheathing is part of, pressed into that plastic housing. The original one is metal. That big housing that goes down to the transmission, that is metal. I will admit, I damaged it. I don't remember how. Somehow I damaged it or discovered it was damaged after I took the car apart. I don't know. It was no good. I ordered this from an, Oldsmobile parts provider. It's not the O-ring. All right, well, I'm happy-ish. I just wheeled out the spare transmission. And here's an original detent cable, original kickdown cable. See how it has a metal housing? And it's really crimped onto the cable sheathing? That plastic thing is just nonsense. So I'm going to unbolt this. I'm going to clean this up. And I guess that's what we'll try. We'll try putting in an original one and see if that stops the leak. Because, again, I replaced the O-ring in here twice. Well, technically twice because it's got a new cable that had an O-ring on it. I just replaced the O-ring again. And it's leaking out of this area, dripping right down the housing. That's a pain in the neck. So, but you can do this without taking the pan down. Just maybe I'll show you guys how that comes apart a little bit better here. Let me get some tools. Take out that 3/8 bolt, and you get the kickdown cable housing loosened from the transmission. You guys can see how it's really just a little bit of like an S curve. It just kind of popped off so easily here. This hole in the cable hooks on to the actual rod inside the transmission. My fat fingers are not letting you guys see what's going on there. Okay, so this tab of the cable just hooks on, terrible lighting here, just hooks on to that. There you go, and then that's how it connects. So what you can do if it really can't fall down in the transmission, but you can take some needle nose vice grips and hold it, hold it out before you take the cable off. So you got a little bit more room to work. It's much easier to do, obviously, off, when the transmission's out of the car. Not that it's difficult, but here we go. Here's an original kickdown cable with a crimped end. And this is where that stinker is leaking in the car, right there. Making me think that it's dripping out of here, dripping down the body of the transmission. Oh, well, I guess you know what flows downhill. So let me clean this one up and swap it out and take the brand new part out, put in the, 54-year-old part. I'm sure it's not going to leak here. We'll take a quick minute and we'll just compare these two. Shut this door here. Here we are, brand new, aftermarket kickdown cable. O-ring replaced again. Still leaks. Still leaks out of here, which is weird because the car's got to be tilted that way. If it's flat, it really doesn't leak. But as soon as you tilt it, you jack it up. If you park it on a slant or something, it's like fluid comes up inside the housing and drips out of there. So I'm going to try this original detent cable out of the spare transmission over there. Remember that I just found in the corner. So there's a new O-ring on there. Gonna bolt this on. Not even gonna bother hooking it up to the pedal or anything. I'm just gonna bolt this in with a new O-ring, and I'm gonna jack it up driver's side really high. See if I can confirm that this thing doesn't leak. And then I'm gonna celebrate by smashing this thing with a friggin' hammer. Well, while jacking up the passenger side to change that kickdown cable, it gave me the opportunity to really test the shifter shaft seal installation. Very good and dry and grand, along with the speedometer drive. That's all dry. Everything is good there. Everything's good there. So that was a cool little experiment. I have no fluid coming out around that speedometer drive gear, past that seal. Shifter shaft seal is dry. And now with the driver's side of the car jacked up high, there's an opportunity to go over here and look under to look at the kickdown cable, and I see no fluid coming off of that. I see no fluid coming where the nylon housing connects to the metal housing. Okay. So what I'm gonna do here again is I'm gonna clean that washing machine drain pan. Actually, I think I've already done that. I'm gonna put this car on the ground. Yeah, that white pan there. I'm gonna put the car on the ground, and then we're gonna test it. Right? Oh my God, this cable is touching the air cleaner. We don't want that cable scratching the clear coat on the air cleaner. Gotta have your priorities right, guys. Priorities. All right, cool. I'm not gonna snap that cable into the firewall until I know for sure that it's not leaking. I'm pretty sure it's not gonna leak. That aftermarket stuff, this plastic nonsense. It's a waste of a good O-ring. Garbanzo.